Dr. Hyunwoo Park pressed his palm against the cold metal wall of his laboratory. The space station hummed quietly around him as Jupiter's massive form filled the viewing window. Orange and red storms swirled across the giant planet's surface, like angry eyes watching him work. Another sleepless night? Mi-young Kim asked as she entered the lab. Her coffee cup steamed in the recycled air. She had worked with Hyunwoo for 3 years now, and she could always tell when he was troubled. I found something strange in the quantum field readings, Hyunwoo said without turning around. His fingers moved across the holographic display, pulling up layers of data that looked like glowing spider webs. Look at these patterns from Earth's quantum archaeology scans. Mi-young set down her coffee and moved closer. The display showed waves of energy that pulsed in regular patterns. To most people, it would look like random static. But Mi-young had trained for years to read quantum field data. These readings show massive disruptions in human civilization, she said slowly. But the timing is impossible. Every 10,000 years, Hyunwoo whispered. Exactly every 10,000 years, something happens that destroys advanced human societies. Mi-young frowned and zoomed in on specific sections of the data. The quantum field around Earth held echoes of the past, like a recording that never stopped playing. Scientists had learned to read these echoes only 50 years ago. Most of the time, they found boring information about weather patterns or small historical events. This was different. The Bronze Age collapse happened around 1200 BC, Mi-young said, tracking the data with her finger. Before that, there was another collapse around 11,200 BC, and before that, another one around 21,200 BC. Hyunwoo nodded grimly. I found 17 separate collapse events going back 170,000 years. Each time, humans went from having advanced technology to living like primitives. Each time it took thousands of years to rebuild. That's impossible, Mi-young said. Humans only developed writing 5,000 years ago. We only reached space 400 years ago. How could ancient humans have advanced technology? Hyunwoo pulled up another layer of the quantum data. This one showed something that made Mi-young's breath catch in her throat. Hidden deep in the quantum field were tiny pockets of organized information. They looked like messages. I found these yesterday, Hyunwoo said. Someone encoded information directly into the fabric of space-time. The encoding is so subtle that only our most advanced quantum scanners can detect it. Mi-young stared at the data. The information was clearly artificial, but it was older than human civilization. Much older. Can you decode it? She asked. I've been trying all night. Hyunwoo's eyes were red from staring at screens. It's like a puzzle with missing pieces. But I think I understand the basic message. He touched a control, and the quantum static suddenly organized itself into readable text. The words appeared in perfect English, which was impossible since the message was thousands of years old. They come from the void between galaxies, Mi-young read aloud. They harvest advanced civilizations before they can spread beyond their star system. We tried to fight them. We failed. Whoever finds this message, prepare better than we did. The laboratory fell silent, except for the steady hum of the space station's life support systems. Mi-young felt cold despite the regulated temperature. There are more messages, Hyunwoo said quietly. Hundreds of them, all saying similar things, all left by previous versions of human civilization. Previous versions? Mi-young's voice was barely a whisper. Think about it, Hyunwoo said, turning to face her. Why do humans have such a strong drive to explore space? Why do we build monuments that last thousands of years? Why do our myths and legends always talk about golden ages that came before? Mi-young sat down heavily in a nearby chair. You're saying this has happened before, many times. 17 times that I can find evidence for. Maybe more. Hyunwoo pulled up a timeline showing the collapse patterns. Each time humanity builds an advanced civilization. Each time something destroys it and forces us back to the Stone Age. Each time we eventually rebuild and reach for the stars. Again. But what destroys us, Mi-young asked. Nuclear war, environmental collapse, disease? Hyunwoo shook his head. According to these messages, it's not something we do to ourselves. It's something that comes from outside our solar system. The messages call them harvesters. Before Mi-young could respond, the laboratory's communication system beeped with an urgent message. Hyunwoo accepted the call, and the holographic image of Commander Dong-hyun Lee appeared above the desk. Dr. Park, I need you and Dr. Kim to report to command immediately, the commander said. His usually calm face looked worried. We're receiving some very strange readings from our deep space monitoring stations. What kind of readings? Hyunwoo asked. The kind that shouldn't exist according to known physics, Commander Lee replied. Objects moving faster than light but not using any FTL technology we recognize. They're coming from the direction of the galactic edge. Hyunwoo and Mi-young looked at each other. The ancient messages had mentioned that the harvesters came from the void between galaxies. We'll be right there, Hyunwoo said. The commander's image disappeared, leaving the two scientists alone with their terrible discovery. How long do we have? Mi-young asked. Hyun-woo looked at the quantum data again. Based on the patterns, the last collapse had happened about 4,000 years ago during what historians called the Late Bronze Age collapse. If the cycle held true, they were overdue for the next harvesting. I don't know, he said. But I think our time just ran out. They gathered their data and hurried toward the command center. As they walked through the station's corridors, Mi-young couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The ancient messages had mentioned that the harvesters could observe human civilization from a great distance. Were they already here? Were they already deciding humanity's fate? The corridor lights flickered once, which shouldn't happen on a modern space station. Mi-young grabbed Hyunwoo's arm. Did you see that? Just a power fluctuation, he said, but his voice was uncertain. They reached the command center to find it buzzing with activity. Officers moved between stations, their faces tense with worry. Large screens showed readings from monitoring stations. Throughout the solar system, Commander Lee met them at the entrance. Whatever you found in your research, he said grimly. I think it's about to become very relevant. On the main screen, impossible shapes moved through space toward Earth. They were still far away, but they were coming. And according to the ancient messages hidden in quantum fields, humanity had never survived their arrival. This time would be different. It had to be. But first, they needed to understand exactly what they were facing. 3 weeks had passed since the first strange readings from deep space. Dr. Jin Cho rubbed her tired eyes as she stared at the images on her laboratory screens. The Deep Space Monitoring Station Epsilon 7 had been sending data around the clock, and what she saw made no sense according to everything humans knew about physics. They're not ships, she said to her assistant, Young-ho. At least not ships as we understand them. The images showed massive structures moving through space, but they seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. Parts of them appeared solid, while other sections faded in and out of visible reality like ghosts. They measured thousands of kilometers long, but sometimes the sensors couldn't detect them at all. What are they made of? Young-ho asked, leaning over her shoulder to look at the readings. That's the problem, Ginny said. The spectrometer shows materials that shouldn't exist. Dark matter formed into solid structures. Space itself folded and twisted into shapes. It's like they're built from the empty areas between atoms. She's pulled up another screen showing energy readings from the approaching objects. The numbers were so high they broke the measurement scale. Dr. Cho, came a voice from the communication system. This is monitoring station Epsilon 7. We're receiving what appears to be a transmission from the unknown objects. Jin A's heart began beating faster. Can you decode it? Already working on it, Doctor. The signal is using quantum frequencies, but the language appears to be mathematical. We should have a basic translation in a few minutes. Jin A turned to Young-ho. Get Dr. Park and Dr. Kim on the line. They need to hear this. Within minutes, Hyunwoo and Mi-young appeared on the laboratory's communication screen. Their faces showed the same worry that Jin A felt. The entities are trying to communicate with us, Jin A told them. We're about to hear the first message. The translation came through the speakers in a voice that sounded like it came from everywhere and nowhere at once. The words were in perfect Korean, which should have been impossible. Greetings to the humans of the third planet. We are the keepers of balance. We have observed your species for many cycles. Your development follows the expected pattern. Jin-ai felt ice in her stomach. The ancient quantum messages had mentioned entities that destroyed human civilization every 10,000 years. Now they were talking to humanity directly. We do not come as enemies. The voice continued. We come as gardeners. The galaxy must be maintained in proper balance. No single species can be allowed to grow beyond its designated boundaries. Designated boundaries? Mi Young's voice came through the communication system. What gives them the right to decide our boundaries? The voice seemed to hear her question, which should have been impossible since the transmission was one way. We have maintained cosmic order for millions of your years. We have guided the development of thousands of species across countless worlds. Some species accept their role and live peaceful lives within their home systems. Others attempt to spread beyond their limits and must be corrected. Jin-ai quickly began recording everything. This was the most important conversation in human history. Your species has been corrected 17 times, the voice said. Each time, you rebuild your civilization and attempt to spread among the stars. Each time, we return you to your proper state. This cycle will end as all others have ended. What do you mean by proper state? Ginny asked aloud, not expecting an answer. To her surprise, the voice responded, You will be returned to a pre-technological level. Your cities will become forests. Your knowledge of space travel will be erased from your minds. Your population will be reduced to sustainable numbers. Your children will grow up as simple farmers and hunters as nature intended. Young Ho grabbed Jin-ai's arm. They're talking about wiping out our entire civilization. Not wiping out, the voice said, somehow hearing them across impossible distances. Correcting. Your species will survive. You will be happy in your simple lives. You will not remember the stars or the pain of reaching for things beyond your grasp. Across the solar system, other monitoring stations were receiving similar messages. The entities called themselves the Keepers of Balance, and they spoke of maintaining order in the galaxy like gardeners tending a vast cosmic garden. Dr. Taemin Seo sat in his strategy room on Mars, listening to recordings of the transmissions. As a former wargame champion, he understood patterns of conflict better than most people. What he heard in the Keeper's messages worried him deeply. They're not angry, he said to his team. They're not cruel. They think they're doing us a favor. His assistant, Kyung Min, looked up from his data analysis. How is destroying our civilization a favor? They believe that advanced technology makes species unhappy, Taemin explained. They think they're saving us from ourselves by keeping us at a simple level of development. Taemin pulled up historical data about human psychology and development. Think about it. Every time humans develop advanced technology, we also develop new ways to worry and suffer. We create weapons that can destroy worlds. We pollute our environment. We become isolated from nature. But we also cure diseases and explore the universe, Kyungmin protested. The Keepers don't see that as worth the cost, Taemin said grimly. They've probably watched thousands of species destroy themselves with advanced technology. They think they're preventing that by keeping us primitive. Meanwhile, on monitoring station Epsilon 7, more detailed scans of the Keeper vessels were revealing disturbing information. Engineer Boram was analyzing the structural data when she made a shocking discovery. These aren't just ships, she announced to her crew. They're alive. The scans showed organic patterns within the dark matter structures. The vessels had something resembling nervous systems, but spread across hundreds of kilometers. They were like massive space-dwelling creatures that could think and reason. They've been traveling between galaxies for millions of years, Boram continued. They don't age like normal living things. They don't need food or air. They exist in the empty spaces between stars. Back on New Sol Station, Jin-ai was coordinating with research teams across the solar system when another transmission arrived from the Keepers. We understand that you fear this process, the voice said. All species fear correction at first. but your previous incarnations adapted quickly to their new lives. Your children will play in green fields instead of sterile metal corridors. They will know the peace of simple existence. What about our achievements? Jinne asked. Our art, our science, our literature? Will all of that be lost? It will be unnecessary, the voice replied. You will create new art suited to your corrected existence. You will sing songs about harvests instead of distant stars. You will tell stories about your forests instead of your failed attempts to conquer space. The transmission ended, leaving the research teams across the solar system in stunned silence. Dr. Hunwoo finally broke the quiet. They've done this before, many times. They probably have the entire process perfected down to the smallest detail. But we know they're coming, Mi-young said. That's something the previous versions of humanity didn't have. We found the quantum messages. We have warning. Jinne looked at the images of the approaching Keeper vessels. They were still months away, but they were definitely coming. And according to their own words, they had never failed to complete a correction. Warning isn't enough, she said quietly. We need a plan. Director So Young-han stood in the deepest bunker on Earth, 2 kilometers below the surface of what used to be the Sahara Desert. Around her, thousands of scientists and engineers worked frantically on humanity's most desperate project. They called it the Quantum Heritage Project, and it was their only hope of surviving the coming correction. How much time do we have? Asked Dr. Wu Jinyang as he connected another quantum storage matrix to the main system. Sweat dripped from his forehead, despite the cool underground air. The Keepers will arrive in 4 months, So Young replied, checking the countdown display on her tablet. We need to finish encoding our entire technological and cultural database before then. The project was massive beyond anything humans had ever attempted. They were trying to store the complete knowledge of human civilization in quantum fields that the Keepers couldn't detect. Unlike normal computer storage that used electronics, quantum storage existed in the spaces between atoms themselves. The ancient messages gave us the idea, So Young explained to a group of new volunteers. Previous versions of humanity tried to hide their technology in caves and buried vaults. The Keepers always found these hiding places and destroyed them. But they never found the quantum messages because quantum information doesn't exist in normal space. Dr. Yunhai Park, daughter of the quantum archaeologist who first discovered the ancient warnings, worked on the most dangerous part of the project. She was volunteering to have human memories encoded directly into quantum storage inside her own DNA. Are you sure about this? Asked her father, Dr. Hyunwoo Park. His face showed deep worry for his daughter's safety. Someone has to carry the complete memory of what we were, Yunhai replied as she lay down on the encoding table. If we hide our technology but lose the memory of how to use it, future humans will just rediscover everything slowly like they did before. The encoding process was dangerous. No one knew what would happen when human consciousness was mixed with quantum information storage. Yunhai might lose her personality, her memories, or even her sanity. But without someone willing to become a living library, the project would fail. Beginning memory encoding, announced Dr. Yang as he activated the quantum field generators. Yunhai, you may experience some discomfort. The process took 6 hours. Yunhai's brain was flooded with quantum information containing everything from basic mathematics to advanced starship engineering. Her DNA was altered to carry hidden instructions that would activate in future generations when humanity reached certain technological levels. When it was over, Yunhai sat up slowly. Her eyes looked different, as if she was seeing things that others couldn't perceive. How do you feel? Her father asked. I feel like I contain multitudes, she said quietly. I can see the mathematical foundations of the universe. I understand how the Keepers fold space and time, and I know how to teach others to do the same. Meanwhile, in the outer solar system, engineer Sang-ho Kim was overseeing construction of humanity's backup plan. Hidden among the asteroids of the Kuiper Belt, teams were building secret habitats designed to look exactly like natural space rocks. The Keepers scan for artificial structures, Sang-ho explained to his construction crews, but they don't examine every asteroid in detail. These habitats will contain hibernating populations programmed to wake up after the keepers leave. Each habitat held 1,000 people in suspended animation, along with the basic tools needed to rebuild civilization. The hibernation systems were powered by the asteroid's natural radioactive decay, which would keep them running for tens of thousands of years. "How many habitats are we building?" asked construction supervisor Min Jai. 50, Sang Ho replied. "Scattered across the entire outer solar system. Even if the keepers find most of them, some should survive." Back on Earth, the encoding project was expanding beyond just storing information. Dr. Yang had discovered how to hide quantum triggers in human DNA that would activate when future humans developed certain technologies. "It's like planting seeds," he explained to So Young. "When future humans invent electricity, some of them will suddenly remember how to build quantum computers. When they develop spaceflight, others will remember how to hide from reality scanners." The triggers were carefully designed to activate gradually. Future humans wouldn't suddenly know everything at once, which might drive them insane. Instead, they would rediscover advanced technology step by step, guided by genetic memories that felt like natural inspiration. Dr. Taemin Seo worked on a different aspect of the plan. As a strategist, he understood that hiding wasn't enough. Future humans would need to know not just how to rebuild their technology, but how to prepare for the next encounter with the Keepers. "We're not just preserving our civilization," he told his planning team. "We're creating a civilization specifically designed to defeat the Keepers." His team was encoding strategic information about the Keepers' weaknesses into the quantum storage systems. Future humans would learn that the Keepers existed partially outside normal reality, making them vulnerable to certain types of quantum weapons. They would know that the Keepers couldn't detect information stored in parallel dimensions. Most importantly, they would understand that the Keepers had a blind spot. The cosmic gardeners were so convinced of their own righteousness that they never considered the possibility of a species that could hide from them successfully. Previous versions of humanity fought the Keepers directly, Taemin explained. That's why they always lost. The Keepers have had millions of years to perfect their correction techniques, but they've never encountered a species that could prepare for their arrival across multiple cycles. As the encoding project neared completion, teams across the solar system made final preparations. Scientists on Mars encoded their research into quantum crystals buried deep in the planet's crust. Engineers on the Moon hid manufacturing templates in the lunar regolith itself. Artists and writers on Earth stored human culture in the quantum field surrounding major cities. "Will it work?" Mi-young Kim asked So Young as they watched the final encoding sequences complete. "It has to work," So Young replied. "We're not just trying to save ourselves. We're trying to give future humanity the tools to end this cycle forever." The Keepers were now visible to the naked eye as bright stars moving across the night sky. Their reality-warping ships began affecting space around Earth, causing strange aurora displays and gravitational anomalies. "They'll be here in 3 days, announced Dr. Hyun-woo Park over the bunker's communication system. "All quantum storage systems are now fully encoded and hidden. The genetic triggers have been distributed to the global population. The hibernation habitats are sealed and programmed." Hyun-hye Park stood beside the main quantum storage matrix, her altered mind processing information across multiple dimensions simultaneously. "I can see them," she said softly. "The Keepers are beginning their reality scans. They're looking for any trace of advanced technology." The scans passed right through the quantum storage systems without detecting them. Humanity's knowledge was now hidden in a place the Keepers had never learned to search. "Phase 1 complete," So Young announced. "Now we wait for the correction to begin." Admiral Kyung-Soo Lee stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the Defiance, as the Keeper vessels approached Earth. Through the view screen, he could see the impossible shapes of the alien craft warping space around them. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist in their presence. "All fleet units report ready for engagement," announced his communications officer. "Though I still don't understand why we're fighting a battle we're supposed to lose." Admiral Lee kept his expression calm, but inside he felt the weight of humanity's desperate plan. The space fleet's job wasn't to win. It was to make their defeat look convincing while protecting the real survival strategy hidden beneath the surface. Because someone has to sell the performance, he said quietly. The keepers expect us to resist. If we surrender too easily, they might become suspicious and look deeper. The first keeper vessel moved into Earth's orbital space. It was a massive thing that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. Parts of it appeared solid, while other sections faded in and out of visible reality like smoke. Their beginning. Their correction protocol, reported sensor operator Young-ho. I'm detecting quantum field disruptions across the entire planet. On Earth's surface, the correction began with a strange tingling feeling in the air. Dr. Bo-Ram Choi stood in her laboratory, watching as her most advanced equipment began to malfunction. Computer screens flickered and died. Quantum processors stopped working. Even simple electronic devices started breaking down. It's a quantum virus, she said into her recording device, knowing this might be one of the last scientific observations of this cycle. They're broadcasting some kind of field that degrades complex technology at the molecular level. The virus spread across the planet in minutes. Spacecraft fell from the sky as their engines shut down. Power grids collapsed as generators stopped functioning. Communication networks went silent as satellites tumbled out of orbit. But the hidden, quantum storage systems remained unaffected. The Keeper's virus only targeted normal technology. The quantum information encoded in the spaces between atoms continued to exist, invisible and protected. In the deep bunkers, So Young-han watched the correction unfold on backup monitoring systems powered by simple batteries. Phase 2, beginning, she announced to the underground teams. Neural suppression field detected. This was the worst part. The Keepers weren't just destroying technology, they were changing human minds themselves. A wave of mental interference spread across Earth, making it difficult for people to think about complex subjects. Dr. Yoon-hye Park, with her quantum-enhanced consciousness, could feel the neural suppression trying to affect her mind. It felt like invisible hands reaching into her thoughts, trying to erase her understanding of advanced concepts. The field is designed to make humans forget about science and technology, she reported, fighting against the mental pressure. People will lose the ability to understand how machines work. They'll forget about space travel, nuclear physics, quantum mechanics, above Earth's atmosphere. Admiral Lee watched his fleet engage the Keeper vessels in humanity's final space battle. The human ships fired their most advanced weapons, but the beams passed through the Keeper craft without causing damage. They exist partially outside our reality, he explained to his crew. Our weapons can't touch them because they're not fully in our dimension. A Keeper vessel responded by releasing what looked like golden lightning. The energy struck the Defiance, and Admiral Lee felt his mind becoming cloudy. Complex thoughts became difficult to hold. Technical knowledge began slipping away like water through his fingers. All hands abandon ship, he ordered, though he could barely remember why spacecraft were important. Return to Earth for farming season. Even as his enhanced mind was being erased, part of him remained aware that this was exactly what was supposed to happen. On Earth's surface, cities began changing. The quantum virus caused buildings to crumble, but not randomly. Skyscrapers collapsed in ways that left behind materials suitable for simpler construction. Concrete and steel broke down into clay and stone. Plastic and metal became compost and fertile soil. Bo-Ram wandered through the ruins of her laboratory, her scientific knowledge fading with each passing hour. She found herself more interested in the plants growing through the broken floor than in the quantum equations she had studied for decades. The flowers are pretty, she said to herself, forgetting that she had once understood the molecular structure that made their colors possible. The Keeper's correction was thorough and precise. They had clearly done this many times before. Human population centers were reduced from billions to millions, but the survivors were left in sustainable communities with basic tools and simple knowledge. Most importantly, the survivors were happy. The neural suppression removed their ability to feel frustrated about lost technology. They couldn't mourn for space travel because they couldn't remember that space travel had ever existed. Dr. Junho Nam was one of the few humans who retained some awareness of what was happening. His research into consciousness protection had given him limited immunity to the neural suppression field. He hid in a remote mountain cave, watching the correction complete itself over several months. "Earth is becoming a garden world," he wrote, in his journal, one of the last written records of advanced human civilization. "The keepers are reshaping our entire planet into something that looks like it did 50,000 years ago. Forests grew where cities had stood. Rivers flowed clean and clear through valleys that had once been industrial zones. The air became pure as all pollution-causing technology disappeared. The human survivors built small villages and learned to farm with wooden tools. They seemed genuinely content with their simple lives, having no memory of the stars they had once reached for, but hidden in the quantum fields around these peaceful villages. Vast libraries of human knowledge waited patiently. In the DNA of the villagers, genetic triggers remained dormant, ready to activate when future generations rediscovered basic science. In the outer solar system, 50 hibernation habitats disguised as asteroids continued their silent watch. There, sleeping occupants waited in suspended animation, their minds protected by quantum shielding that the keepers couldn't detect. After 6 months, the correction was complete. The keeper vessels began to leave Earth's orbital space, their reality warping, drives carrying them back toward the void between galaxies. "Another successful gardening," transmitted one keeper to its companions. "This species shows the same patterns as all others. They will rebuild slowly and naturally, finding peace in simple existence. Their children will be happier," agreed another keeper. "They will know the joy of harvest seasons instead of the stress of space exploration." The keepers departed, confident that they had once again saved a species from the dangers of advanced technology. They had restored the natural balance as they had done thousands of times before. But this time was different. This time, humanity had prepared. In her remote village, Yunhai Park tended her small garden with the other survivors. To anyone watching, she appeared to be a simple farmer who had never heard of quantum physics. But deep in her altered DNA, the complete knowledge of human civilization remained intact, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The correction was finished. Now the real plan could begin. Jun-Ho Nam emerged from his mountain hiding place years later to find a world that looked prehistoric, but he could sense the quantum storage fields humming invisibly around the human settlements. The knowledge was still there, hidden but not destroyed. "They think they won," he wrote in his final journal entry. "They have no idea what we're really capable of. This isn't the end of human civilization. It's the beginning of our transformation into something they never expected." He buried his journal and joined the other survivors, pretending to be a simple traveler who had forgotten the old ways. But inside his mind, he held on to one crucial piece of knowledge. The countdown to humanity's awakening had already begun. 4,000 years had passed since the keepers left Earth as a garden world. Da-Yun's Song hammered iron in her father's forge, the same work her family had done for generations. The village of New Haven sat peacefully in a green valley, where ancient stories said great cities had once stood. But Da-Un was different from her ancestors. For weeks now, she had been having strange dreams filled with mathematical symbols and images of machines that didn't exist. In her dreams, she could see metal birds flying through the sky and understand exactly how they worked. "Another sleepless night?" asked her father, Master Song, as she entered the forge before dawn. "The dreams are getting stronger," Da-Yun admitted. "Last night I dreamed about something called electricity. I could see invisible power flowing through metal threads like water through pipes." Master Song frowned. His daughter had always been clever, but lately she spoke of impossible things. "Dreams are just dreams, Da-Yun. Focus on your ironwork." But as Da-Yun worked the bellows, she found herself thinking about better ways to create heat. In her mind, she could see complex designs for furnaces that would burn much hotter than anything her village had ever built. Across the world, similar awakenings were beginning. Minho Kang, a young scholar in the Eastern Kingdoms, discovered that certain combinations of symbols carved on ancient stones triggered intense visions of advanced knowledge. When he traced specific patterns with his finger, his mind filled with understanding of forces he had never studied. "Master Chen," he said to his teacher, "these symbols aren't just decorations. They're some kind of key that unlocks knowledge. The old scholar examined the stone carvings that Minho had found near their monastery. They looked like simple geometric patterns, but when arranged properly, they created complex quantum encoding sequences designed by humanity's previous civilization. Be careful, young Minho, Master Chen warned. Knowledge that comes too easily may be dangerous. But Minho couldn't stop himself from learning. Each symbol combination revealed more information. He learned about metallurgy far beyond anything his people knew. He understood principles of engineering that could build structures reaching toward the sky. Most importantly, he began to remember things that felt like inherited memories rather than new discoveries. The awakening process accelerated as more people experienced the genetic triggers. Yujin Li, a merchant's daughter in the Northern Territories, found herself able to perform calculations that no human should have been able to do without written numbers. She could see patterns in the movement of stars that revealed the mathematical foundations of the universe. I think I understand why this is happening, Yujin told her friend Haiwan during one of their evening walks. We're not discovering new knowledge. We're remembering something our ancestors knew and lost. Haiwan looked skeptical. Our ancestors were simple farmers and hunters. Everyone knows that. But what if everyone is wrong? Yujin asked. What if our ancestors were much more advanced than we believe? As the awakening spread, small groups of enhanced humans began finding each other. They gathered in secret meetings to share their strange new knowledge and try to understand what was happening to them. Iyun traveled to the capital city of Haven's Rest, where she met other people experiencing similar dreams and visions. Together, they formed the Order of Remembered Knowledge, dedicated to understanding their shared awakening. We're not the first group to experience this, announced Dr. Hayuno, a healer who had begun to understand the quantum nature of human consciousness. I've found records of similar awakenings in previous centuries, but they were always suppressed or forgotten. Hayun had discovered that human DNA contained hidden layers of information that activated when certain technological thresholds were reached. The genetic triggers were designed to guide humanity's redevelopment while keeping the process hidden from outside observers. Someone planned this, she explained to the gathered order members. Our awakening isn't random. It's following a specific pattern designed to help us rebuild our civilization without being detected. Minho had made the most disturbing discovery. His study of ancient symbols had revealed quantum messages warning about entities called keepers, who returned every 10,000 years to destroy advanced civilizations. According to these messages, he told the group, we have about 6,000 years before they return. But we're not just supposed to rebuild our old civilization. We're supposed to create something completely new. The hidden messages contained detailed instructions for developing technology that could exist in parallel dimensions, invisible to the reality scanning methods used by the keepers. Future humans weren't just meant to hide from the cosmic gardeners. They were meant to evolve beyond them. Jin had become the group's expert on quantum engineering. Her inherited memories allowed her to understand how to build machines that operated by folding space-time rather than using normal physics. The previous version of humanity tried to fight the keepers with conventional weapons, she explained. That's why they lost. But we're being guided to develop weapons and defenses that exist partially outside normal reality. As the years passed, the awakened humans established secret research centers hidden beneath their simple villages. To outside observers, they appeared to be living at a medieval level of technology. But underground, they were developing quantum computers, reality phase generators, and dimensional manipulation devices. Yuan became a master of what they called invisible metallurgy. She could forge metals that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making them impossible to detect with normal scanning methods. Her weapons and tools appeared to be simple iron to casual observation, but actually contained quantum enhancement fields. The key is making everything look primitive on the surface, she explained to her apprentices. The keepers will return eventually, and when they scan our world, they need to see exactly what they expect: simple humans living simple lives. The Order of Remembered Knowledge grew into a global network of secretly advanced humans. They communicated through quantum message networks that existed in the spaces between atoms. They traveled using teleportation devices disguised as simple walking sticks. They stored vast libraries of knowledge in quantum crystals that looked like ordinary rocks. Most importantly, they began preparing for the next encounter with the Keepers. Unlike previous cycles where humanity was surprised by the correction, this time they would be ready. Min-Ho established the Strategic Planning Division, dedicated to analyzing the Keepers' psychology and tactics. Their inherited memories revealed that the cosmic gardeners had certain behavioral patterns that could be predicted and exploited. The Keepers are millions of years old, he explained to the strategic team. They've become set in their ways. They always use the same correction techniques because they've always worked before, but they've never encountered a species that could prepare for their return. Yujin made the breakthrough that would define humanity's new approach. She discovered how to create weapons that could affect entities existing partially outside normal reality. The Keepers think they're untouchable because they exist in multiple dimensions, she said, but that also makes them vulnerable to quantum weapons designed to target multidimensional entities. As the fifth millennium since the last correction approached, the awakened humans began their final preparations. They had rebuilt human civilization, but this time it was specifically designed to defeat the Keepers. Ha-Yun had developed techniques for enhancing human consciousness to perceive and manipulate reality at the quantum level. The new humans weren't just more technologically advanced than their predecessors. They were more evolved as a species. We're not the same humans the Keepers corrected before, she announced at a gathering of Order leaders. We've become something they've never encountered, something they're not prepared to handle. The hibernation habitats in the outer solar system had begun awakening their sleeping populations. After 6,000 years in suspended animation, the survivors of the last correction emerged to find a solar system secretly populated with advanced human settlements. The awakened humans and the hibernation survivors combined their knowledge, creating the most advanced human civilization that had ever existed. But to any external observer, Earth still appeared to be a simple garden world populated by primitive farmers. Yuan, now an elderly master of her craft, stood in her forge, creating the final weapons for humanity's confrontation with the Keepers. Her quantum-enhanced hammers shaped metals that existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. They're coming, she said to her apprentices as deep space sensors detected the familiar reality distortions that announced the Keepers' approach. But this time, we're ready for them. The awakening was complete. Humanity had spent 6,000 years preparing for this moment. The cosmic gardeners were about to discover that their garden had grown beyond their ability to tend it. Commander Seok-Jin Yoon stood on the bridge of humanity's most advanced warship, the Transcendence. To any outside observer, he appeared to be a simple village leader wearing rough cloth clothing, but the ship around him existed in 17 different dimensions simultaneously, invisible to conventional reality scanning. Keeper vessels detected at the edge of the solar system, reported his tactical officer, Dr. Hae-Won Jung. They're beginning their standard approach pattern. Through the ship's quantum view screen, Seok-Jin could see the familiar impossible shapes of the Keeper fleet. They moved through space exactly as they had 10,000 years ago, confident in their routine of cosmic gardening. They have no idea what they're about to encounter, he said quietly. Signal all hidden fleets. Begin Phase 1 of Operation Liberation. Across the solar system, hundreds of human vessels began emerging from quantum stealth mode. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids, space stations hidden in parallel dimensions, and weapons platforms disguised as natural phenomena all revealed themselves simultaneously. But the real surprise wasn't humanity's military preparation, it was their evolution as a species. On Earth, wise woman Ji Young-baek stepped out of her simple wooden hut to address the approaching Keepers directly. Her consciousness had been enhanced through 6,000 years of quantum evolution, allowing her to communicate across multiple dimensions at once. Greetings, Keepers of Balance. Her voice carried through space without any technology. We have been expecting your return. The lead Keeper vessel paused in its approach. This had never happened before. In 18 cycles of correction, no human civilization had ever acknowledged the Keeper's approach with such calm confidence. "You should not remember us," came the Keeper's response. "Your species was properly corrected. Your knowledge of space travel and advanced technology was erased." Ji-young smiled. "Our knowledge was hidden, not erased. We have spent 10,000 years preparing for this conversation. Inside the quantum research centers beneath Earth's peaceful villages, Master Engineer Tae-young Ryu activated humanity's greatest achievement. The planetary defense grid came online. But it was unlike anything the Keepers had ever encountered. Instead of conventional weapons, the defense grid used manipulated portions of reality itself as ammunition. Quantum cannons fired bullets made of folded spacetime. Reality phase missiles could strike targets existing in multiple dimensions. Most importantly, the weapons were powered by the same cosmic balance that the Keepers claimed to protect. "Beginning counter-correction protocol," Tae-young announced to defense stations across the planet. "Show them what happens when a garden grows beyond the gardener's control." The first battle took place across 17 dimensions simultaneously. Keeper vessels that had been untouchable for millions of years found themselves under attack by weapons that could reach them in their multi-dimensional hiding places. Fleet-Admiral Subin Moon commanded humanity's space forces from her flagship, a vessel that existed as both matter and energy simultaneously. Her enhanced consciousness could perceive and command battles taking place across multiple layers of reality. "Target their reality anchors," she ordered her fleet. "Don't let them retreat to their higher dimensional spaces." The Keepers fought back with their traditional correction tools. They released quantum viruses designed to degrade human technology, and neural suppression fields meant to erase advanced knowledge from human minds. But humanity had evolved beyond the reach of these weapons. Their technology was based on quantum consciousness rather than simple electronics. Their knowledge was encoded directly into their enhanced DNA rather than stored in vulnerable computer systems. "Your correction tools no longer affect us," Ji-young announced from the planet's surface. "We have become something you never expected. We are no longer the species you have been gardening." The battle raged for days across the entire solar system. Keeper vessels found themselves outmaneuvered by human ships that could exist in spaces the cosmic gardeners couldn't reach. Ancient weapons that had corrected thousands of species proved useless against humanity's quantum-enhanced defenses. But the most shocking moment came when Dr. Hae-won-young revealed humanity's ultimate weapon. She had learned to perceive the cosmic balance itself, the fundamental force that the Keepers claimed to protect. "You call yourselves gardeners," she said, her consciousness expanding to encompass entire star systems. "But gardeners nurture growth. You have become parasites feeding on the fear of species that might surpass you." She showed the Keepers something they had never seen before: the true state of the cosmic balance. The galaxy wasn't becoming unbalanced because species grew too advanced. It was becoming stagnant because the Keepers prevented natural evolution. "Look around you," Hae-won continued. "How many species have you corrected into extinction? How many civilizations have you destroyed? In the name of balance, you have become the very thing you claim to prevent." The Keepers paused their attack, their ancient minds struggling to process this new perspective. For millions of years, they had believed they were protecting the galaxy by keeping species at primitive levels. Now they were being shown evidence that their actions had caused the very stagnation they feared. Seok-jin took advantage of their confusion to deliver humanity's final message. "We don't seek to destroy you," he announced to the Keeper fleet. "We seek to inherit your responsibility. You have grown too old and set in your ways to properly tend the cosmic garden. Stand down and let us take up the gardener's tools." "Impossible," replied the lead Keeper. "Your species is barely 10,000 years removed from primitive agriculture. You cannot comprehend the complexities of cosmic balance." "Can't we?" asked Tae-young from his engineering station. He activated a display showing the Keepers exactly what humanity had achieved during their latest cycle. The display revealed the true extent of human development, not just advanced technology, but evolved consciousness that could perceive and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. Not just spacefaring civilization, but a species that had learned to exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Most shocking of all, humanity had solved the problems that the Keepers used to justify their corrections. They had developed sustainable technology that enhanced rather than destroyed natural environments. They had created social structures that prevented the wars and conflicts that usually destroyed advanced civilizations. "You have become what you prevented others from becoming," observed Ji Young. "You have achieved the transcendence that you denied to countless species. But transcendence without growth leads to stagnation. You have become gardeners who forgot how to let their garden evolve." The final battle wasn't fought with weapons. It was fought with ideas and perspectives that the Keepers hadn't encountered in millions of years. Humanity forced them to confront the possibility that their ancient mission had become corrupted by fear and control. One by one, the Keeper vessels began powering down their correction systems. Their quantum consciousness networks buzzed with unprecedented debate and self-examination. Perhaps came a hesitant transmission from the lead Keeper. "Our methods have become outdated." Perhaps cosmic balance requires growth rather than stagnation. "It does," Subin replied from her command ship. "But recognizing that truth is the first step toward wisdom. We offer partnership, not conquest. Let us work together to nurture galactic civilization instead of limiting it." The conversation that followed lasted for months. Ancient cosmic gardeners and newly evolved humans debated the nature of balance, growth, and responsibility across multiple dimensions of reality. In the end, an agreement was reached. The Keepers would gradually transfer their cosmic responsibilities to humanity and other evolved species. The age of forced stagnation would end, replaced by an era of guided growth and mutual cooperation. As the Keeper vessels prepared to depart for the last time, their leader transmitted a final message to Earth. "Your species has achieved something we thought impossible," it said. "You have grown beyond the need for gardening, but with this growth comes responsibility. The galaxy is now yours to tend. We trust you will do better than we did." Ji Young stood in her village, watching the Keeper fleet disappear into the void between galaxies. Around her, the hidden quantum cities began emerging from their dimensional hiding places. Humanity's true civilization was finally free to exist openly. "The age of corrections is over," she announced to the celebrating crowds. "The age of exploration begins." For the first time in galactic history, a species had not only survived the cosmic gardeners but had convinced them to change their fundamental nature. Humanity had broken a cycle that had lasted for millions of years. But their greatest challenge still lay ahead. They were now responsible for nurturing the growth of countless other species across the galaxy. The students had become the teachers, and the gardened had become the gardeners. The 10,000-year cycle was finally broken. What came next would be entirely up to humanity's wisdom and courage.